So in your Facebook profile, I don't want to start like too deep here, but in your Facebook profile, it says that at the age of 13, you were told to do something else and you don't follow directions. Thank goodness for us. So what career were you supposed to, what career were people encouraging you to go into?
Yeah, first off, Graham, who just played Charlie in NCT's Kinky Boots, he's here right now. Hi, Graham. Rosie. Hi, Rosie. What's so funny is that when in my Facebook profile, it says at 13, I was told I should choose one career path, and I'm so glad that I didn't listen, because I was that young person, and I'm still that same person who one day I want to be a Broadway performer. The next day I want to be a Broadway director. The next day I want to be a choreographer. The next day I want to be an entrepreneur. And I just believe that anytime that inspiration hits, it's just asking you to be a co-collaborator. And so it doesn't mean that you have to say yes and no. It means that you have to say yes and figure it out, you know? So that's been a really exciting part of my journey, I would say, since being a teenager, of figuring out like, how do I marry the world of entrepreneurship, musical theater, and also my love of being an educator as well. So yeah, so to all those people that said you have to choose one thing, boo on you. I'm living my best life and I'm happy.
I love that. And we're going to talk about your the education piece and the entrepreneur piece towards the end, because I love that also. And you're gonna, you know, you're training a whole new breed of performers, Broadway stars. So yeah. Now I saw you also met Eric Woodall's mother around the same time at the age of 13.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that serendipitous meeting and what that was all about?
Absolutely. Such a sweet question. So I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and something that I tell people all the time is that your dream is not localized by your zip code. You know, I meet so many students every single week that say to me, you know, well, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. How am I going to make it to Broadway? And I say, one, it comes down to your heart, and it comes down to the question of how hard do you want to work for this thing? And so because here's the thing, your angels and your connectors are everywhere. They're all around. And so when I was 12, 13 years old, I went to the North Carolina Dance Institute and got all of my training. And my teacher there, Kirsty Tice-Spady, who is still my mentor and still like the dance teacher that has pushed me the hardest ever in my life. I just lived in her studio. And so every Saturday there would be a group of women, and they still kick it. They're called the Sassy Classics. And it is a dance troupe of women, I believe 60 plus. And they are the sweetest bunch of women, but they are in there like with their, like they put their tap shoes on and they're like kicking their legs and like living their best lives. But anyway, I was in one of the other studios just practicing something on my own, because Kirsty has always been so incredible and just giving me space to, you know, work on my craft even as a young kid. And this woman came up to me and she said, you know, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, oh, I want to move to New York City. I want to be on Broadway. And she said to me, well, I have a son and he lives in New York City. And when you get to New York, I'm going to make sure that you meet him. And I thought to myself at the time, I said, well, yes, ma'am. But at the same time, you're like, what is she even talking about? You know, like, okay, you've got a son in New York. Okay, ma'am, you are sweet as pie, but I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I go on with my life every single summer that I then ended up going to North Carolina School of the Arts for high school, but I would always spend my summers back at Kirsty's studio at North Carolina Dance Institute, and I would see Miss Woodall, and she would always say to me, now, when you get to New York, I'm going to make sure you meet my son. And I'm like, okay. So fast forward like 10 years, I moved to New York City and I meet her son. And she was right. her son is a really big deal. His name is Eric Woodall, and some of my first auditions for Broadway shows were for Eric's office, Tara Rubin casting. And he has just been such a champion of the work that I've been trying to do in my life since I moved to New York 10 years ago. And so I feel extremely blessed and grateful that, you know, 20 years ago, his mom said to me, "Hey, I've got someone for you to meet." And all of these years later, he is still so supportive of my dreams.
I love that. And so just to bring it back to North Carolina Theater, the reason we're having this conversation about Eric is because Eric left New York, came back to came back to Raleigh, and he is the producing artistic director of North Carolina Theater, where Memphis was supposed to be this week. So that's the tie-in for folks who don't know North Carolina Theater. And we're very lucky to have him. It's very exciting. So at what point did you know, how old were you? Were you 13 when you knew you wanted to become a performer, or was it earlier than that? Like, did you pop out the balloon? Were you dancing?
I was 7. I was 7 years old, and I was in the Tiger Cub program, and my mom was the Tiger Cub den leader, and actually another Raleigh connection. And one of our activities on a Saturday afternoon was go to see a free community event. And so my mom, you know, went into, you know, the newspaper, you know, because back then we actually read and we actually like all picked up the paper and learned about things before there was
current events.
Yeah, you know, what's happening in Raleigh this weekend. And so we ended up going to the Raleigh Little Theater and seeing a community theater production of a show called Ice Wolf. And that day, I say all of the time, and I mean it with every fiber of my being, it changed everything about my life. Like, there are moments I think that are predestined in your life that literally just like turn everything around. And that moment changed everything for me. It really did. It truly, truly did. And so that's why I'm such a huge lover of Raleigh, North Carolina. But two, of community theater and local arts organizations, and why we have to support them, and why the work that you do with RDU on Stage is so important, because it's so real. Like, a 7-year-old boy has now been living in New York City for 10 years and has done 5 Broadway shows because of places like Raleigh Little Theater, places like North Carolina Theater, people like RDU on Stage that allow people to be connected to this greater world and to like what's happening. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I mean that.
Oh my goodness, thank you. That means the world to me, especially during this time, because theater is such a collaborative art. I spend most of my evenings at the theater as a theater lover. And so now to be locked up in my home and that be self-quarantined, these chats mean everything to me, because it connects me to fantastic theater people. And I can celebrate the shows that I love, like Memphis, because I really do love this show.
Yeah.
Before we get into Memphis, you were in another one of my, you have this amazing resume on Broadway, but you were in one of my favorite Joy Fest shows ever, Hello Dolly, the revival, and you were in it with Bernadette Peters and with Bette Midler. So can you talk to me about that experience? Because I have never seen a more happy, joyful Broadway show than that revival. I think I smiled the minute the orchestra started to the minute she took her bows. And I saw it with Bette Midler, so I was a Bette fan. But
yeah, one, it is my favorite show ever. And I discovered Hello Dolly actually when my mom was fighting cancer, breast cancer, which she is a survivor. And so it holds a huge, huge piece of joy and refuge in my heart. And I have to tell you, it's so funny you should ask that question, because this morning I woke up and, you know, I feel like all of us are getting this opportunity to really think about what matters and what we're truly grateful for. And I have been in a place of peace actually over these last 2 weeks of quarantine. Like, of course, I am so sad that we weren't able to open our show this past, you know, Tuesday evening. I actually just got a text message from Delta saying, your boarding pass, because I was I was going back to North Carolina this morning to see tonight's closing show, and then flying back to my office here in New York tomorrow morning. But I say all of that to say, I think about, you know, if I could just give a little context about my love for this show, is when I graduated from the University of Michigan, where I got my BFA in musical theater, I moved to New York City and I had no money. Like, I had $0. I had $200 in my bank account and 2 maxed out credit cards. And one of my friends who is actually from Raleigh, North Carolina, come through North Carolina, he reached out to me and said, hey, Robert, I'm going out of town for a few weeks. Would you like to stay in my room? Totally for free, just being kind. And so that was like such a huge blessing, but I still got to New York with no job, you know? And I graduated in 2009, which they are now saying is like, you know, the worst time that you could ever graduate would be 2020 or 2009, you know, because of what was happening in the stock market and our world. And I remember my first audition that I ever went to here in New York City was for a regional theater production of Hello, Dolly. And I just went into that audition, and I just remember walking out being like, I got to do that show because something special is going to be happening down in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at the Hangar Theater. And I ended up getting that show. It was my first show out of school. And I remember it closed on September 23rd. And then a national tour that I booked started rehearsing on September 24th. So I was thinking about that this morning, in the sense of like, even in these moments where you feel despair or you feel like, how is it going to work out? The universe has this beautiful way of showing up and showing you that like there is a way, and you just have to be patient and you just have to trust that it's going to come through. Because someone that moved to New York City that had $200 to their name within a few weeks of moving there got the chance to like book his favorite show, which was Hello, Dolly, and then got the opportunity to like go start rehearsing a national tour. So anyway, I say all of that to say, when I made the choice to in my mind, I had already been thinking, you know, at that point in my career, I was ready to move into education and entrepreneurship full time. And then Hello, Dolly came up. And I was like, I have to be there. Like, I have to experience that. And the casting director, Craig Burns from Telsey and Company, he called me and he said, I have an offer for you. And he offered me the show, and I was with my mom and I cried. And he said, Robert, this is going to be an event. And I will never forget that for as long as I live, because that entire time that I got to be a part of Hello, Dolly with all of those incredible people was nothing short of an event. You know, like, to be able to be loved by Bette Midler and to share space with her is like a gift that I will never be able to say to the universe, thank you enough. But I gotta tell you, it really started with our director and our choreographer, because at the top, they said that this show has to lead with joy. And that is like how I live and try to live my life and try to move through this planet. And when they said that, it just clicked. And so everything that we did as a cast, we tried to lead with joy. And I know that that was the reason that people would come to the theater. And I've said this a million times, do I think Bette is out of this world? She is one of the most phenomenal performers and people like of our time. But what made that show truly special was the collective choice to lead with joy. And that is why grown people were coming to the theater and were weeping watching Put On Your Sunday Clothes, because they knew that there was a time in their life where they didn't know how they were going to get from A to B, but they made the choice to put on their Sunday clothes when you feel down and out, and to just feel like there was hope. And so I got to tell you, it really came from the director and the choreographer really telling us what a great assignment we had ahead of us, you know? And so it was and will always be one of like the hallmarks that I will always look at, and just, you know, just be so grateful that someone trusted me with that assignment, you know, because it wasn't a small one.
So when you're in a room like that and a director says we're gonna do this with joy, we're gonna lead with joy, is that what you brought into the Memphis room with you when you were doing your directing here at North Carolina Theater? Because from what I interviewed Eric Woodall, and that podcast will drop this week, but it sounded like there was a lot of joy there.
You know, what's interesting, one really great question. I didn't ask that cast to lead with joy. I asked that cast to lead with hope. And I didn't realize what was about to happen. I don't think any of us realized the magnitude of this moment that we are, you know, journeying through together was going to be. But I will say, I said we have to lead with hope. And the only way that we can do that is if we prepare. And so a huge, you know, thing that I try to instill in all of my students is the notion that we have to come to the first day of school ready to learn, you know? And so I asked the cast to come completely off book. I asked them to come knowing their music. I asked them to come ready to play in the playground. And I was like, the playground requires you not to hold your school books. So they did that. And I have to say, that week that we got the opportunity to share together was, I couldn't think of a better way to, you know, begin this coronavirus journey than spending it with those humans, because it really was, as a nation and as a world, as we were all really figuring out what it meant for the United States, it was the best place to be, you know? And I'm just so grateful that Eric, one, gave us an opportunity and a platform to lead with hope. And I have to say, the work that Eric and Elizabeth are doing together at North Carolina Theater is some of the most superb leadership that I have ever seen at any theater, whether it be regional or Broadway, ever. And so North Carolina is very, very, very blessed to have them, because they are really a powerhouse of a team, and really doing really great work. So I would definitely say, yeah, we had a really special time, and I know that we are not done telling the story. And I can't wait for Raleigh to experience it, because it is, I know everyone, you know, gets on podcasts and interviews and says, it's going to be so good. No, it really is so special. It's so special what those people have put together. So I'm excited for us to get the opportunity to share it with people.
I want to wrap up our Hello Dolly conversation, and then we're just going to dive deep into Memphis. But did you get to perform on the Tony Awards? Because they just announced that it was going to be postponed, which is so sad. I look forward to the Tony Awards every year to watch it from my couch and see all the performances. Did you get to perform at Radio City?
Yes, I feel so blessed to say that I've been able to perform the Tony Awards at both Radio City Music Hall and also the Beacon Theater. So I performed with the cast of Memphis, was the first time that I was on the Tony Awards. The second time that I was on the Tonys was with the cast of Nice Work If You Can Get It. And then the third time that I was on the Tony Awards, I was with the cast of Cinderella, the musical. And then the fourth time that I was on the Tonys was with the cast of Hello Broadway. Hello Broadway. Hello Dolly.
Hello Broadway
is the name of my online school.
It's all good.
But it was with Hello Dolly, and Hello Dolly did not perform on the Tonys, but we did get to rush the stage and rip our Tony Award for Best Revival. So that was really, really special to, be in the theater and then get to be a part of the live telecast, because we all ran to the stage and Scott and Bet spoke, and we just sat there and were all crying. So yeah, I've been to the Tonys 4 times. But I will say, although it is postponed, I just have a feeling that all of us, because of this, are going to come back better and stronger, and it's going to be right when it does come. So just know that.
I agree. I think we're going to come back bigger and stronger and better as a community. And I also think, because all of us are now forced to use virtual technology, that we're going to be a more connected community as well. So that's my hope for it as well. And what a resume. I mean, you just rattled off all these fantastic shows, but Cinderella, Motown, Nice Work If You Can Get It, Memphis. I mean, you've been pretty blessed with all those shows. I think those are some fantastic shows. Do you have a favorite, other than Hello Dolly, which I know is special to you? Is there a favorite role or a favorite show that you've been a part of? Or
yes, they're all so different, and they all hold like a different piece of my heart. Like this week I saw a bootleg of our Cinderella on YouTube, and I hadn't seen it in quite some time, and I just teared up. And so it has a very, they all have, they're like your friends, they all hold a different spot in your heart. But I would definitely say because I got the opportunity, who I know you're speaking with Antoine, that was Antoine and my Broadway debut, and we got to share that together. And I got to play Waylon Joe, who you will meet in Collins department store. So every night I got to pop out of a trap door on Broadway and singing really, really high notes, and just getting to dance and getting to sing and getting to be Black on Broadway and getting to tell a story that ended in triumph for a Black woman. It was an incredible, incredible time. And Antoine and I also had the opportunity to understudy the 3 male principals. So Antoine and I understudied Bobby, Delray, and Gator. So no week was ever the same for Antoine and I. Like we would, do our, I would, then one night Antoine would be Bobby, the next night I would be Gator, the next night he would be Delray, then on Saturday afternoon he would be Gator in the afternoon, then that night I might be Gator in the evening, he might be Bobby. Like it was just like we were always going back and forth between, who was on for, which of the leads as people, were in and out of the show. But that was, I remember leaving that show thinking, if I can understudy 3 roles, jump out of a Broadway floor screaming high notes 8 times a week, I can do anything. So Memphis was like the ultimate like Broadway boot camp, grad school, all wrapped into one, but like you were getting paid to do it. Like I felt like I was like stealing, because I was like, how am I being paid to do this? Yeah.
love that. Well, and I asked Antoine this question. I'm going to ask him this question again tonight, because I think this is really interesting. So when Memphis debuted on Broadway, and it had a life before Broadway. I mean, shows don't just open on Broadway and it's magic and they're a hit like Memphis is. It had a life before Broadway. But when it opened on Broadway, it was a very different time historically. Barack Obama was elected president. I think there was a lot of hope in our country. I had a lot of hope. I'll just speak for myself. Now, coronavirus aside, our politics looks very different now than it did when Memphis opened on Broadway. Mm-hmm. Does the show played differently now? Is there more of a significance to it now in 2020, doing this show and working on this show, than there was back then? Does it feel different now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing this up because, you know, what I want everyone here to know is that we can all be, what I love about the power of theater and about the people that make the choice to come to conversations openly, it gives us the opportunity and the responsibility to be honest. And so, although we may all share different religious and different political beliefs, we can share space together. So, yes, it was a very different time in America, excuse me, especially as a Black man living in New York City with Barack Obama as our president versus, you know, these 8 years later with Donald Trump now as our president. And I will say the tone of the nation then felt very hopeful. And so the direction that we were given at Memphis, you know, while we were doing that show on Broadway, felt the same way. I will say, now revisiting the show, you know, I think Antoine and I made our debuts in 2010. 10 years later, it is wildly different. And the scenes, the scene work, which Joe DiPietro, who won the Tony for this, did such a fantastic job of the language with this show. I think the music is impeccable, but the language of this show is so beautiful and so timely. And I will say, as a director, it plays so differently because I think in 2009, 2010, when we were telling this story, it was this story about racial divide. Now that I look at it, it's actually a class divide, you know, and it's racism and classism within each of these sects of people. You know, you've got Huey Calhoun, who comes from nothing, who is poor, who then has that American dream of a rise, but because of where he comes from and because of how he views the world, there's still a glass ceiling on him, although he is a white man in America in the 1950s. So I gotta say, it is very different, but I will say that is why we were most devastated that we weren't able to tell the story at this time, because there are so many people that need to experience this story, because I know that their views as they walk to the polls in Raleigh, North Carolina, will change by seeing this story and experiencing this story. And I think regardless of whether they're, you know, they circle a different bubble or not, they will at least be able to spend 2.5 hours with us and see what the power of empathy and courage and honesty and communication and understanding can do because of the power of theater. So I am I feel very responsible to make sure that we do get this story out, because at this point in 2010, we were telling a story of a Black woman who made it. And that's so exciting. And we had Michelle Obama and her daughters in the audience, and that was so thrilling. And we are so grateful for that. But now we are telling a story about what happens when there is divide, but what happens when people come together to make a change. And North Carolina, more than my state of New York, needs to see that story in a very critical way.
And the show was filmed, and it's on the Broadway network or the Broadway, whatever they call that, on Amazon. But anyway, look it up. You can watch Memphis tonight after Antoine and I speak.
I think it's called is it Broadway HD?
Broadway HD. And I think they're having a free trial or something.
Yeah, they have a free trial right now. Yeah.
So pop on, you know, watch these talkbacks, hear us talk about the show. You've got 2 Broadway cast members we're talking with tonight. two folks that were involved in the North Carolina theater production, and then go watch this show, which will fill your heart with so much joy and give you so much to think about. So that's what I love about the show. It's funny and joyful, and the music is fantastic.
Yeah.
What did you learn during your experience in 2010? Yes, TJ McCarthy, look it up, and listen to the Spotify playlist. What did you learn in 2010 on Memphis, being a performer in it, that you brought to directing it here in North Carolina theater? What did you learn from that experience that you brought to this?
Oh, hands down, that preparation will change your entire existence on this planet. Antoine and I both rehearsed this show for, I think I had 4 days of rehearsal and then was put into the show. And within my first week of being there, one of the principal understudies called out. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have been at this theater in this show for a week. I don't even fully have what I'm doing down every single night in my ensemble track. And now I have to go make my principal Broadway debut. But I thought in my brain, I remember I had my mom, actually, I wonder if give me 1 second, I have an object. I have something I want to show you. Hold up.
And Holy Art, I think what you said about his office, I mean, how beautiful is this background? I feel like I have to up my game on my background.
Oh!
We're talking about how beautiful your office is. Somebody had commented that your office is on fire. I mean, it's just, your background is gorgeous. So
I think how we, what we surround ourselves with, whether it be friends or the clothing that we wear, I think it all really... It makes a difference. So thank you for that. I don't have it here in my office right now, but when I joined the cast, they sent me the PDF of the script. And so I emailed my mom and I said, Mom, will you please print this out 4 times for me? And then what my mom did is she made a script binder for each of the characters that I played. Waylon Joe, there was a binder. Del Rey, there was a binder. Bobby, there was a binder. Gator, there was a binder. Then she color coded. She highlighted all of my lines for Bobby in blue, all of my lines for Gator in green, all of my Del Rey lines in yellow. And so then she sent them to me, and then I just got busy. I just started learning all the information. And so when I went on to, a week into being in the show, making my principal Broadway debut, that night after the show, the guy that played Bobby every night, James Monroe Iglehart, who went on to, win a Tony, win the Tony for the Genie in Aladdin, he's at the stage door and he said to me, I said, what are you doing? How are you here? How are you out? And I was like, why did you do that to me? And he said the most simple sentence ever, and it'll stay with me forever. He goes, I knew you were prepared. And so in my mind, I then have taken that in everything that I do. That if I am prepared for my students, if I am prepared for an audition, if I am prepared for my first day of Memphis rehearsal at North Carolina Theater, then I know that I can do my best. And whether that's enough for someone or not, that has everything to do with them, not with me. If I've done my work, then I can put my head on my pillow at the end of the night and say, well done, you did good today, boo. So the lesson of preparation is something that I definitely took away from Memphis, and that I try to now instill in every cast that I direct or choreograph Memphis on, or any student that I work with.
So let's talk about, I was there at North Carolina Theater Studios interviewing Antoine in person that Thursday, and there was still hope that the show might go on, or at least might get to do a dress rehearsal. There was still some hope. Talk to me about the realization setting in that the show wasn't going to open yet. And I say yet because we're going to see it sometime, because it's just been postponed. It's not been canceled. what was the feeling in the room with the cast? Eric said it was just such a special moment, that last rehearsal, because you did get to do the show, run through it once, right?
Yeah. We got the opportunity to do an Act One run and an Act Two run as well. And so the feeling in the room was we were all in the midst of the unknown, but in the unknown, we were doing the thing that we knew we were called on this earth to do. So it was this choice that we all made together that started with, Eric and Elizabeth and myself and everyone that's in a position of leadership over this show that said, I say it all the time, while we have the breath in our bodies, we might as well do what we're here to do. And so we just made a choice to that last day and that Sunday, because we thought we were going to be there till Tuesday evening, and the cast, we were all going to fly back to New York on Wednesday. That previous Sunday morning, I woke up and in my spirit, I knew. I said to myself, today is our last day of rehearsal. And our associate choreographer, Ramon Owens, came to pick me up for us to go to rehearsal that day. And I said, hey, babe, today is it. He goes, no, we're gonna do the Tuesday night run. I said, no, I feel it in my gut. I know today is it. And my gut never lies. I knew it was it. And so when Eric called me, our entire creative team, if rehearsal starts at 2, I try to get there by about 9 a.m. Again, preparation. I like to be prepared so that when the actors are in the room, I don't waste people's time, because I don't want my time to be wasted. And so we are in there, and as we're working on, the things we were going to teach that day, Eric calls me, and I knew what that phone call was. But I had already prepared myself, and I was already ready, and I just thought to myself, we get the opportunity today to do it, and it was this collective. I mean, when we got to the end of Act Two, and there's a video of Colby, who plays our Huey, Colby Deslick, who is just a dream, and I cannot wait for Raleigh to experience his Huey Calhoun. He's like so superb. But when we got to the end of that run and he sang Memphis Lives in Me, that was the moment that I just broke down. And I mean, I was like snot nose. There were tears. It was a disaster. And, it wasn't sadness. It was supreme gratitude for the opportunity and the time that we did have. And the opportunity that Eric said, this is not a cancellation. This is a postponement. This is but a mere pause. And so it was a very special day, and I told the cast, and I'll say it here too, I said, I hope that you get the opportunity in your artistic journey that you get to create something with a group of people that you love with all of your heart. And for me, that was our creative team, because for 2.5 months before we started Memphis, we were doing pre-production. And for those of you that don't know what pre-pro is, it means you create the show before you start rehearsal. Again, preparation, preparation, preparation. And so, Julia Harnett, who's in the cast, and our assistant choreographer, Jacob Burns, who is our dance captain, he's also in the cast. And then our associate director, Jack Sipple, and our associate choreographer, Ramon Owens, and we spent 2.5 months preparing this thing for everyone, And so to be able to see all of that hard work come to fruition, it was just like, I will forever be grateful that the universe gave us that gift, And until we get to share it with the audiences of Raleigh or wherever we get to share it, that is more than enough for my heart to hold on to. Yeah.
Now, in addition to performing and acting, directing, choreographing, you started the Broadway Collective. So let's talk about, this is kind of like a master class for young performers. And a lot of your students are on here right now, and they keep calling you, as their mentor, a theater angel to them. So I don't know if you're seeing these comments scroll, but why is it so important to you to give back to a new generation of young artists?
It's one, thank you for that, but I think it's so simple. It is, you're not given a gift for you. You're not given a gift for you. I believe you're given something so that you can share it with others. And so there's been a huge blessing put over my life from growing up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and saying at 7 years old that I wanted to be on Broadway, and then at 21 years old, moving to New York City and it happening, and it not happening only once, but numerous times, and now getting the opportunity to direct and choreograph, like everything that I've ever hoped for, I get the opportunity to do. And so with that, why not share? So I will definitely say it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like a huge gift. And because of it, you know, our students and our parents are such a life force for me, that they truly do become family, and the team of teachers and the core team that keeps our business and our, operations running, whether it's Dallin, our director of operations, or, Kate or Hillary or, anybody on our team, you just, I can't say it enough. I'm just so grateful because I get to do it with the best people ever.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to questions. We have a few more minutes, and I want to ask you, so if you have questions, type them in the comments and I'll read them to Robert, or he can read them. He can see all of you chatting. They're all making friends. So do you teach students from around the country? Because they're all exchanging information. And
Yeah. So what's so fun is when we opened the Broadway Collective, I was talking to Ramon about this on the phone this morning. I said 4 years ago we said we wanted to be an online education company. We wanted to teach people online, and so we've been doing that for over 3 years now. So much of education is now trying to get online because of where we are in our world. But I have to say, I'm so grateful that it's something that we've been, doing for over 3 years now. Coaching kids every single week on singing, dancing, and acting and artistic mentorship. So it's a joy. Yeah.
So somebody's asking if you got the chance to direct any Broadway show, what would it be? And there's a lot of good ones right now.
If I got the opportunity to, oh my goodness gracious.
There's a little Michael Jackson musical coming out.
Yes. You know what I would love to, I would love to, I was actually thinking about this after seeing our Cinderella. I would love to direct and choreograph a a revival of Cinderella. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. But you have to have William Ivy Long do those costumes. Those costumes were, if you guys have not seen the Tony Award winning costumes, I think they were Tony Award winning costumes.
They were.
Cinderella. Go on William Ivy Long's website and check out those gorgeous costumes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, beautiful.
Stunning.
And if you could go back and give that 7-year-old boy sitting at Raleigh Little Theater piece of advice or some, I don't know, words of wisdom, now that you know what you know, what would it be?
To keep going and to remind him that he's going to be great, because I think so many times we don't speak kindly to ourselves. And if there's any way that I think we're going to get through this current moment, it's going to be loving kindness that we speak to ourselves, and how we structure our brains to process all of this information, how we cut off the misinformation, and positively and affirmatively speak over yourself. I'm going to survive. I'm going to thrive. I'm going, just it's the only way. So that's what I would tell little 7-year-old Robert. I'd say, baby, you're gonna be great, and it's gonna happen. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And
Thank you.
somebody asked, I'm going to go back here to see what the questions are. If I wanted to try to perform on Broadway, but others from my small town community say no, what advice would you give?
I would say, one, get some new friends.
Yes.
No, but that's so real. I tell my kids all the time, I tell my students, I'm like, hey, listen, if you have small-minded people around you, you go be small-minded. Like, it's just science, You hang around some people that speak positively over your life and speak positively about the things that can happen. And if you feel it inside of you, like little 7-year-old me felt it inside of me, like, it will happen. But it's going to be aligning with people that, that think differently. And so I would encourage you, find a positive space on the internet. Like, come follow us at Broadway Collective, on Instagram. Meet some of our current students, follow them on Instagram, start talking to them. Like, they will be your new family, they will be your new friends, and they will tell you that, like, whatever you dream, it's possible. So yeah, I would cut the negative noise. I would tell them you love them, but I would say, hey, there's something else out there for me, and you may not get it, and that's totally fine, but I'm going to get it for myself.
I love that. So another question, what is your favorite song to sing from any musical? Which one fills you with joy when you sing it?
Oh my gosh. I love Being Alive from Company, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, because come on. First off, is Sondheim's 80th birthday?
90th. I think
90th birthday
90th
that we
birthday.
just celebrated last week. That song just takes you all the way through, all of the emotions, all of the feels. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Is there a number you love to dance, like in any of these shows you've been to, or a choreographed number that you just love?
I have always, my favorite number, I guess I would say, that I've ever done. There's two, actually. One would be Lady Be Good from Nice Work If You Can Get It, choreographed by Kathleen Marshall. And the reason being is she let us be individuals, and she let us explore how our body moved to her movement. And then the second would be the waltz from Cinderella, because one, those costumes, literally, like, you couldn't tell me that I was not a prince. Like, you could not tell me. Like, we all just looked fierce and fabulous, like in custom satin costumes. And to my partner, her name's Kendall Hartsey, we got to fall in love on Broadway 8 times a week. Like, come on, so Kimmy Calhoun, Mama Calhoun goes, not the waiter's gallop. No, the waiter's gallop was really hard. That was 20 minutes. No. Although my favorite one, the waiter's gallop, was fun, but that was hard work. But I loved the number Dancing from Hello, Dolly, because it's, the top of Act 1, and it's all about elegance and love and just in the joy of dance. But the waiter's gallop, I still have, I still could drink a bottle of water just uttering the name waiter's gallop. Yeah, just thinking about it. Yeah.
Kim had a question. Best words of wisdom for seniors who are trying to figure out their next steps and navigating disappointments. Their shows are not, some of their last shows in high school or college aren't going on.
Yeah.
How do they make these big decisions about colleges or programs that they want to continue on?
We have an event coming up, and we're calling it our Senior Support Night, and I think it is in about a week. We haven't announced it yet. I think it's like April 6th or 7th. So if you come and follow us at bwaycollective.com, I promise that we will be sharing some resources, because I know so many people are making these choices of investing in these college programs that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're not able to go visit the schools, or you're a senior and you're not going to have the opportunity to walk across the stage or to do your senior show. But what I will say is, think about how impactful this moment of isolation is for our world. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I can keep a few more people alive by me not being out on the street right now, I think we can all make that sacrifice. And I understand, like, be one with the disappointment, but be one with the opportunity that our self isolation is providing to the world and the greater good right now. And I'm here to let you know there are going to be a million more shows. I understand it won't be your senior show, but hey, it may be a production at North Carolina Theater. It may be a Broadway show. It may be a national tour, that you will look back on this time and you will be grateful that you did your part in protecting our planet and protecting, you know, everyone around us. But for those of you that are seniors specifically, give us a follow if you're interested. And it's going to be a free night where essentially we give advice to our seniors as they're making these truly life-altering decisions without a lot of information. And so both myself and Kate Lumpkin, who is our head of education and the leading casting director here in New York City, we're going to lead that night together to be of support to our seniors for free. So don't think that this is something that you need to come sign up for and pay for. But yeah, so.
Okay, so Instagram kicks us off after an hour, and we are approaching that 1 hour mark. But I want to thank you, Robert, for your, I feel like I've been to the church of Robert Hartwell now. I am ready to embrace the week.
I love it. I love it.
And I hope everyone will come back. Join me at 8 p.m. right here, same place, same Instagram handle, at RDU on Stage. And we're going to continue the Memphis love and Memphis celebration with Antoine L. Smith. So I will see you all back here at 8. Thank you so much, Robert.
Oh my goodness. And Lauren, thank you so much for everything that you do. This has just been the most enjoyable hour, and I cannot wait to see you at Memphis when we do it. And I'm going to give you a huge hug. I know people will probably still be trying to give elbows and things, but I'm just going to squeeze you. So.
Oh no, I'm a hugger, and I will be hugging you, and I will be there on opening night.
Amazing.
Cheering you guys on, because I love this show so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love y'all, RDU on Stage. Love you, Lauren.
Thank you.
And thank y'all to y'all for tuning in. Truly, so kind. I'll see
Support
you soon.
local
Okay?
theater.
Yes, support your local theater. I love you. Thank you so much.
See you guys at 8 p.m.